now banned, Lilia does go up in priority. So Umpty is going to take that one away. And let's see what Morgan and Johan do have available. Remember, no Renekton, but there is a Thresh. Oh my goodness, this makes things really rough. Especially, I want to go back to that first turret percentage because it's actually super relevant in this particular matchup. Because this is how Deft has been winning games of League of Legends for like the last 7 years.
Yeah.
It takes first turret with a Thresh support or something like that that's very defensive. He's playing Jinx, Tristana, or Caitlyn, mows down that turret, gets transitioned around the map, and they have a 4,000 gold lead out of nowhere.
And because he has such a wide pool of champions he can play too with a Thresh, Kai'Sa here is not a strong pick as a result. You know, we're going to see the Gnar too. I feel like for Hanwha Esports, you don't even necessarily have to take the Jinx here. They will. It is a very strong pairing.
I mean, Deft is also like 90% win rate on the champion of all time, so probably a pretty good option.
It's a good play. They have now the opportunity too to try to get a top laner that can snowball things with the Udyr pick here for Johan. That was the alternative option, is to grab something like a Camille here, maybe band away, you know, because you want to make sure that Gnar is going to be able to be stable in that top lane. And when you do have champions like Camille paired with Udyr, it becomes very frustrating to keep Gnar stable if you're Hoya in a matchup like this. Yep. So I expect Fredit Brion to try to take some of that power away, because you already have such a strong bot lane. You cannot have a strong top lane on top of it, because things could just become unreal.
And also, Morgan isn't that player either. This guy plays a lot of very defensive top lane matchups. Even though he has like a 5-1 win rate on the Renekton, he still plays it very weak side orientated. He doesn't move too far up the lane. This is a guy that likes to absorb pressure rather than put it on. And so maybe this is a time where the Gnar makes a lot more sense, because he is known to sort of roll over lanes that aren't able to play up to that level of aggression. But we'll see where Morgan is going to go. Certainly still a bunch of tanks that he has left over, as Kennen and the Orianna taken away from Hanwha Esports here. The
Kennen ban I really do like, actually, because it's another champion that can get kind of snowbally on the top side with an Udyr. But here's the issue. You still have Jace. Yeah, you still have Irelia. Like, Camille is also another option, but this is going to be great range damage, which is so safe into what is going to have to be harder engage. They take the Sylas instead, which has been a more recent development. We're seeing this to respond to Gnar a lot more recently, because stealing the ultimate is so powerful. You have this insane engage tool, and Sylas is extremely tanky in some of these fights too, if he can get into position, and then he's able to set up a crazy Gnar ultimate at will, right? He's not reliant on a Gnar bar, so kind of crazy actually how powerful this pick has become in recent weeks.
Yeah, although it doesn't necessarily do that well in lane against the Gnar. It's something that has been picked to just try and steal away really cool ultimates and things like that, which, you know, is good. But I don't know whether it's really going to be quite as powerful as what the Jace would have been, which would have been a lot of added pressure around the map that Udyr loves. And there's Yone. Okay, Chovy, gonna be locking it in for us. And remember, the time that BDD wants to forget in his life was when he played Syndra into Chovy's Yone, man. Like, that's one that all of us want to remember for the rest of our lives. However, a very different story when it comes to the other side of the map, and this is a big gauntlet thrown for Hanwha Esports.
And Chovy has played, I have to remind everyone, 17 champions this season, and you could even point to 4 of the 5 champions that Fredit Brion have banned this game as champions Chovy has played in the mid lane.
Yep.
He hasn't played Kennen mid just yet, but you never know. But at the same point,
shout out to Prolly there, one of my favorite mid Kennen players from back in 2013.
But Alice, you could see how difficult it is to draft against a team like Hanwha Esports. At the same time, you know, you're feeling like, okay, we have to try to control the top side of the map. You know, it's going to be really tough into Deft, Vista, Jinx, Thresh on the bottom side. So you're trying to control things around the top side of the map and jungle, and then yet somehow Chovy's Yone gets through the draft, and you're like, there was just one thing we couldn't stop. I mean, there's just a million different ways that Chovy can play this mid lane and try to get extra prio, and Yone is one of the more terrifying options. It does have trade-offs, though. It's not going to scale as well towards the late game, but at the same time, their composition has Sylas, who can, of course, steal a lot of impactful ultimates, especially the Gnar ultimate set up for engages. They have a really nice front-to-back team fight here. I think that Fredit Brion are going to have to be stable early on. If they fall behind, I think this is a game that Hanwha Esports can absolutely run over.
I think Fredit Brion do have a lot of options when it comes to lane pressure, though. I think that the Gnar will be able to push in the Sylas, and I think that theoretically, if it wasn't Chovy who does mix up these matchups, Syndra should be able to try and get a little bit of lane control in the earlier stages of the game. But we'll just have to see exactly how this one's going to go. Yaharong, a different player to Lava. Of course, Lava was playing last time these two teams met. And remember, it is all on the line for this one. Every game matters, right? It's not even like, can you win the series? Fredit Brion need a 2-0 to keep fate in their hands.
Yeah, and even if they get a 2-0, it's not completely in their hands, because Nongshim could still 2-0 both their...
It's the most in their hands version of outcomes.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. And I mean, another crazy thing too is that if Nongshim, or rather if Fredit Brion, end up going 1-2, like if they end up losing the series 1-2, they still have a chance, but that's only if KT wins the next series 2-1 specifically. Like it gets...
Yep.
It's like, well, it's still possible, but, you have to think about how technical it has to become. As you guys can probably tell, we do have a pause, very cinematic pause.
Yeah, slight pause there. I imagine Chovy's having a little bit of issues. He's like, no, this emote spam is not working effectively. I'm going to need you guys to fix it. There is this one particle that's off, and it's really it's ruining his feng shui of the lane. I could completely understand that, and hopefully we can have a complete rework of Yone and his ability to emote spam in the meantime. So we are going to have a bit of a break.
Yeah, can you, when you see the refs texting, that ref texting behind Chovy in particular, the first thing that jumps... Okay, Vista has sound issues, we got confirmed.
Yeah.
First thing that jumps into my mind is actually the ref is not even talking about the pause. He's like, did you guys see Chovy's playing Yona in this game? Like, he actually got through the draft.
He's like messaging his friends just to let them know that they probably should be watching this one. Oh,
he's like, when he gets that triple kill later, like that's me in the background.
Spoilers, Wolf. Come on, don't be like that. I'm actually very interested to see, how Yaharong's going to deal with it, because I imagine not a lot of space is going to be given to Chovy this game, right? Like, this is his Yone. This is like, it's almost like one of those faker situations, like the global taunt that we've seen. Even now, right? It's still years past, like the classic global taunt moments of like 2014, 2015, where Faker was just a magnet in that mid lane. It is just still the case. It's crazy. And I feel like Chovy's Yone should probably, especially this game, have a very similar effect on
Yeah, I mean, even pre-6, he can put kill pressure onto an Orianna. If he's able to get the knock-up, then Udyr comes through, it's the follow-up stun. And you don't have to worry about gap closing because he just rips his soul out and then chases you down forever.
It sounds very graphic.
Yeah,
but it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it could potentially be a graphic game, Atlas, that we're going into here.
Well, looking forward to seeing how it is going to go. I think the bottom lane should be well and truly in favor of Hanwha Esports. But this is a Udyr composition, right? So you need pressure in more lanes than one. Chovy has the ability to just generally do that on a whim, which is a little bit difficult. But we'll see how Fredit Brion are going to do it, because there is a lot about this draft that is a little bit disrespectful on Hanwha Esports' side.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, if this is a different team, if you change the nameplate, I think a lot of people look at this draft and go, well, I think this is too risky. I think they're trying to do a little bit too much with this draft. It's a little bit complicated, and it has certain holes in it in terms of how it's going to scale later on. Sure, you have the Jinx for late game power, but if Sylas isn't able to consistently get those Gnar ultimates off, then he's not as powerful later on. The Yone isn't going to be as powerful, so it is based on getting an advantage early on and kind of pushing with that, which we've seen Chovy do so well with the Yone, as you mentioned with the BDD series in particular. That was where he played a Kali that second game too. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it didn't even really matter which champion it was,
as
it turned out. But that's what can certainly warp how these games are going to go. Is Vista continues to have some audio issues, and I guess we've covered the game enough. Wolf, I'm really excited. Really excited at the moment. Can you guess what it is?
Is it maybe because there's a new video game coming out tomorrow afternoon?
There is a new video game coming out tomorrow afternoon. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'm ready.
I'm ready too, man. I'm going to be pulling out my my Yone longswords to hunt some monsters.
Oh, really?
They only let you hold one in this game for some reason, but
I know it's a bit silly. I mean, obviously, it's no League of Legends. However, being able to hold at least one of those longswords is definitely a very cool thing. I'm planning on switching my sword between an axe and a sword.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
That's my plan. I've made a lot of different weapons in my time, but I think it might be time to switch it up.
Which kind of sword and axe? So are you talking charge blade? Because that's technically also switching.
That has a shield as well.
Yeah,
that's too many things. I can't hold 3 things. No. I'm a simple man. I want my axe to change into a sword and then back into an axe and all that sort of cool stuff. Because now we have to deal with having like this very interesting spiderweb stuff that we get to utilize as well, which is really fun. But speaking of fun, let's get back into Fredit Brion versus Hanwha Esports. Vista has sorted out his audio, and we've got junglers starting on their camps. We've got red starts for both of our junglers, and let's see whether the Udyr can do Udyr things and speed through his jungle, despite the fact that Umpty got a pretty hefty leash.
Yep, pretty hefty indeed. But it is Udyr, despite the Phoenix stance nerf, which is very slight. And a really nice play there from Yaharong. I'm sure he doesn't get hit by that third Q. Always going to be careful about setting that up, because if you...
Oh, hook lands onto Henna, but Delight goes in as well. You got Deft walking very far forward, switching to the rockets, but Henna's still in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, that's a great...
What happens,
great
you land some hooks early and things are going to be good. And we've seen this so many times. Leona picked into Thresh, and I don't know whether it's my boomer brain, whether something's changed, but it's bad for Leona, right? You Zenith Blade in and you get flayed out.
You get flayed out, and then you get caught on your retreat because it's essentially a free hook. You kind of give a free engage over. You have to have a champion that can just crush and burst in the matchup if you're going to try to gank level 1, level 2, or not gank, but you know, aggress forward and end up
actually trade properly.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Jinx is very happy to do that, especially when you get the Thresh. And this is what I'm talking about with this matchup in the mid lane. If you end up getting Q'd the third time and knocked off, especially, you know, like that, and Yaharong does not, you'll end up losing half your health bar. And then if he does it to you again, you lose flash. And this is what I'm talking about with the Udyr pick. Let's see if he can make it happen.
He's coming in with the bear. There's the flash done as
Chovy
gets that knock up. And too easy it is for Hanwha Esports. It's the Udyr that gets the first blood, so not the worst news for Fredit Brion, but still, what a phenomenal start here for Hanwha.
And this is the kind of thing that, like, you know, I'm no prophet, but it's a very easy, it's very easy to execute, right? Like, this is not hard stuff. I mean, this is not rocket science.
Knock up, kill them with all of your damage. Yep.
I mean, you could do it both ways. If Chovy gets a knock up first, then you get the free follow-up stun from Udyr, who can just close that gap so quickly. And then if you do it the other way, as we just saw, you know, it's impossible to miss the follow-up Q because they're stationary. So it's like the easiest thing to do in the world, and you have to respect it. And if you respect it too much, then you fall behind in CS, which is generally how it's going to be against Chovy anyways, let's be real. But this is a rough start for Fredit Brion.
And now Johan goes back, and I think this is really intelligent. Picking up the Merc Treads, making sure that he's not CC'd for too long, but if he's going to be focusing the mid lane, which he definitely should be with the flash down now on Yaharong, it's going to mean that he's not going to be taking bajillions of damage. That being said, Umpty actually trading very, very nicely there as he looks to try and invade the chickens. There's a hook point blank onto Delight. Flame Chompers go down. He has to flash to get out of the way. Deft does take the lantern, and now Vista's in trouble. Henna over the wall, and now Deft by himself against two. This is going to be dangerous, but a phenomenal play here from Fredit Brion on the bottom side, punishing the aggression from Hanwha Esports.
Really well played by Delight there, just waiting till the last possible second to flash away. And that ends up being a great kill. Now, they do have to use both flashes for it, so there is a big trade-off in what they've done, and that does make them vulnerable for potentially follow-up plays that we might see from Vista. And you won't be able to make a play like that twice with no flashes. But still, a lot of extra gold here now to Henna, who has shown to be the most successful player on Fredit Brion in the late game when he is fed.
Yep.
He's been very consistent, so good start. Look at that win record, 39-3 career.
Yeah, dude. And this also includes the LPL when he was playing over there. Definitely just had a very, very good time when it came to playing Jinx. And this is exactly the playstyle that we were talking about, right? Like this, like his win rate on Caitlyn also very high. Teams play around Deft very well. But speaking of playing around very good players, Chovy just getting the setup there from Johan, and things much easier now in the mid lane for that unit.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. He used Flash to guarantee the stun. And we're going to watch Delight here just get over-committed to, and then we're going to jump out of the replay early, but
yeah, we are.
It's all good. You guys saw it just a few seconds ago.
Henna just like free hitting actually in that moment, so it's a little bit unfortunate. Scatter the Weak lands onto Chovy. Yaharong using his mana bar pretty relentlessly right now.
Yeah, sometimes that's the only way you can feel safe, is to just kind of try to chunk out the enemy Yone so that he can't all in on you as easily, but you know, obviously he's not bound by such restrictions. He doesn't have a mana bar. So eventually you're going to have a bad time because he's got Vampiric Scepter and can just heal right back up.
Yep. As there's an R back, Johan in a bit of trouble here. Does land the abduct. No wallop available there for Hoya. And he misses the big statue. It's Johan now, Hobbs mode, moving on into the enemy jungle. This red buff is going to be spawning relatively soon. As you can see, Umpty thinking about making his way over. Doesn't land the bowling ball and just looking to push this wave out for Yaharong. But that does mean a bit of space in the enemy jungle is given over to Johan as Chovy gets himself back. And unfortunately, there's the unbound soul. Has to ult his way out as the bowling ball's going to pick it up in the end. A bit of a mistake there from Chovy as the unbound soul means that they know exactly where he is.
Yeah, that was not the right way to play that. He could have just walked away instead, but he offered himself to take a little bit of extra damage, and the sleep was available. And unfortunately, Johan was nowhere to be seen. He was trying to catch up in terms of farm and was kind of stealing some camps away. So very unfortunate that he wasn't anywhere nearby. And I don't think there was any vision of this either from Fredit Brion. They just made a proactive play. It was risky, but it pays off big time to trade that one back. And that's the power of Lilia, you know?
Yeah, true. But it would have been so good for Hanwha Esports, right? If Chovy keeps them busy, he doesn't need to unbound soul, you know, randomly in the lane. He did use it, I believe, to try and, yeah, just get a little cute Q onto Yaharong, but
the problem is,
going back.
Exactly. He even ults away, but the sleep is there to guarantee the kill. The problem is if he, you know, if he does that, then it's like he's kind of stuck out there and he has to return, and he also didn't return immediately, so he took a lot of extra damage before even coming back. Like, I think he thought that Johan was going to be there faster. Just a small mechanical error of judgment, even more than mechanics there from Chovy. That's going to cost you big.
Well, we'll see whether Yaharong can use this to get himself back into this lane comfortably. You can see some brown bags picked up, but Chovy not with a very large amount of magic resist right now. So Yaharong's going to continue to do a fair bit of work with that unleashed power as Chovy just looking to get some vision down, does so pretty comfortably as the unbound soul's back.
It's kind of unfair that he can do that.
Yeah,
no. I watched that, I'm like, wait, what?
And remember, Chovy is a bit of a connoisseur of the old LeBlanc, and it works very similarly.
Yep.
That being said, LeBlanc has a few more options when it comes to whether or not you do go back.
Yeah, you don't tell everyone where you're going before you go there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more ambiguity there.
Top side of the map, though, Morgan is actually just doing really, really well when it comes to farm. We actually saw this matchup last time around. I believe it was Keen playing it. And he didn't have a very good time at all as the Sylas into the Gnar. This time, Morgan really has got past the really difficult part of the lane and is now able to use that pretty decent wave clear in order to keep things in order. And as you can see now, able to get that wave shoved in himself as Delight moves on around and finds himself a little bit of a ward.
Yeah, this is kind of an awkward situation here for Delight. He's very tanky.
All right, Zenith Blade does come in here as Deft should be able to take the lantern, very comfortably does so. I like that. Vista immediately gets out, makes sure that he understands that the Thresh positioning is exactly the most important thing, as Johan just steals away the Rift Herald by himself.
Yeah, and this was a really nice macro play from Hanwha Esports because they knew that Chovy could come down here to catch this wave, no problem. So he gets over here. They lose nothing for this. And all the resources Fredit Brion spent, meanwhile, to try to make that play happen around the mid lane means that they get a free Rift Herald. So that's a lot of extra gold here for Hanwha Esports. They already got the first Drake. So they're in such a fantastic position objective-wise right now.
Yeah.
And in fact, you know, with the control they have over the top side of the map, they could just parlay that into controlling this next Drake fight as well and start to get a really massive advantage. And this is what this comp is supposed to do. There's been a few hiccups along the way. You know, firstly, not giving the kill to Chovy, which was not actually his fault. I mean, the kill
that's not a big deal, really.
But, you know, and then Chovy ends up getting picked, right? Then there's the little snafu in the bottom lane. So there's some errors here, but Hanwha Esports, their comp is still working as intended.
And it should continue to do so, right? Because as soon as Johan puts down this Rift Herald, it's likely that either Chovy or Deft are the beneficiary of this. That's exactly how Hanwha Esports have played in the past. Often we do see it thrown topside, but Morgan doesn't often get a lot of the help as Chovy does land that second portion of the Q. Yaharong is going to be absolutely fine. Has his arm guard completed now as well as the Mountain Drake is live. A possibility that we get some Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is, of course, the Cloud Soul is what that's going to mean.
This is really nice, actually, that Fredit Brion are able to get on this streak so quick. I don't know if they'll be able to hold this, though. It's going to be close.
Well, let's see how this one goes. Chovy does have it ultimate available as, nope, not going to be able to grab themselves the Drake, and now the fight is on. Vista in a bit of trouble here as Chovy finds the ulti onto Hannah. Not the target that Fredit Brion want taken out earlier. Now Yaharong, both of the carries eliminated in an instant. And Hanwha Life Esports, yes, it is going to be a Cloud Soul. Yes, they lost the last good dragon, but they do grab this double, and they still have that Rift Herald available.
It's super important to note that I feel like, you know, this is the time where if you're Fredit Brion, you have to make really tough calls like this, and I don't think their decision to stay on the Drake and actually hard commit to it is necessarily wrong if they can turn this game around later on, but I feel like they're not a team that's been able to successfully in the past show us that they can have a deficit like this in terms of control over the map and then come back and take games from a significant gold deficit. And the fact that the Rift Herald, you know, is just now planted, that's going to be a lot of the extra gold coming through. But like, Fredit Brion are like, we are not going to give up 2 objectives here and then find ourselves struggling in the later parts of the game against a tempo comp. We're going to commit to this. But this fight here in the Hanwha Life Esports comp is always supposed to win this at this stage of the game. They have extremely powerful ultimates, you know, the ability to stun people nonstop at this stage of the game with the Udyr pick. I mean, it is a very, I almost want to say impossible fight for Fredit Brion if they commit to the Drake there. So they made their call to take the Mountain Drake and not give Hanwha Life Esports that faster track to Soul Point. And I can respect that decision, but they are going to have to turn this game around. And, you know, if Chovy starts to get out of control here, that's going to be so much more difficult to do.
Yeah, the thing that, like, I'm totally okay with them going for the Drake. Committing to the fight afterwards, that was where things went very, very wrong. As, you know, Henna being a little bit trigger happy on that killer instinct really did put him in a very uncomfortable position. And now, like, look at the items, man. Like, Deft is so far ahead when it comes to where a Jinx is supposed to be at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Kraken Slayer versus 3 longswords and a Dirk.
Yeah. And a Picker. I mean, he does have a lot of flat attack damage. You know, I believe this is an evolution on the Q, which, you know, used to mean a little bit more than that. However, still going to be a good thing. I think he might almost just be there in maybe a level or 2 or something like that. Haven't done my Kai'Sa calculations when it comes to how much AD you need, which items you need. Is now Johan just going to be running around in circles here. Has his chem tank, so he should be okay. Now Chovy fighting Yaharong.
He gets the ult.
Yeah, that's big.
That's pretty massive because now he is relative impunity in terms of how he can trade. He can push the envelope all the way till the edge. Oh man, this bottom side of the map is going so poorly for Fredit Brion right now. They're going to get this turret. Yeah. So some extra gold here as Deft is going to deny a little bit of CS on top of it.
As much of it as he could, and with another like 5 or 6 seconds available. So he got that last plate as well. Love it. Chovy just going to lap up all of these minions. Is behind. So you can see that Fredit Brion have utilized the fact that they did get that, that trade back kill onto Chovy. They've done that very effectively and tried to, you know, continue that moving. And has done so, as Yaharong does have a slight advantage. It's not something that a lot of players can say against Chovy.
I'm wondering now, I mean, the one place we haven't really been talking about this game has been this top lane. I mean, you mentioned earlier, Morgan's actually doing very well, all things considered, for the matchup. In fact, is ahead in 3 CS at the moment, but we haven't seen him function in team fights just yet, and that's going to be a big question mark because the execution of the Sylas ulting in with the Gnar ult that's stolen is often why he's picked into this matchup because, you know, as you pointed out, in the lane it's not great. But there is a limit to what you're able to do. Sure, you get the ability to use it whenever you want, but, you know, you only get that one opportunity. So if you mess it up, like, it's a really hard team fight composition for Hanwha Life Esports. So Morgan's execution in these upcoming fights is really going to determine Hanwha Life Esports' later success when we do have to fight not for skirmishes, but actually straight up team fights for objectives like a Baron or that Soul Point that's upcoming.
Yeah. It's actually going to be really cool how Morgan decides to use this as well, because Solar Flare, very, very good.
Yeah.
Killer Instinct, also amazing for getting into the back line and trying to lock down his opposition. Yaharong's going to have a difficult time against that Sylas if he can reposition at will. Looking forward to how Morgan is going to play this. As Chovy here on the bottom side, 1-3-1, certainly a big possibility for Hanwha Life, just with the huge range that Deft will have in the mid lane as well with the rockets. Means that it does become so much easier for them to wave clear pretty safely. As you can see, Deft sort of chilling out with Vista here. Vista's Thresh has always been really good, but I really like, especially how he's been playing it this game defensively outside of that 2v2 snafu.
Yeah, I do agree. And, you know, he adds a lot of extra mobility to the Yone, so it's very frustrating to deal with this. As Henna is in trouble.
Super Mega Death Rocket just to try and get Henna out of here. As Deft, you can see, really starting to do some damage. Johan going to be starting off this first Cloud Drake as Def just fully sidesteps the Solar Flare.
Had a Lantern too to use if he wanted to. I mean, he has options here.
Yeah, man.
And I think part of the reason why the Super Mega Death Rocket, I struggle to say that name,
yeah.
Is used here is because they want to make sure that there's no ability to rotate over. They want to make sure they have guaranteed prio to get this Drake 100%, and they are able to secure that. Fredit Brion can't contest with half health bars here in the mid lane. So this ends up being a nice free objective. And Fredit Brion aren't able to trade anything for it on the map. That's the big problem. Sometimes when you lose a Drake, you gain something else, and you're like, well, it's tough you lost the Drake, but you've got one of your own.
Here's the other thing that I got, yeah.
Exactly, but in this case, they don't get anything, so...
That's really not what you want. Hoya does have his teleport available. Looks like he's just going to be walking to lane. Stride Breaker in his way there, as you can see. Morgan lying in wait. So it will mean that Hanwha Esports do have one tool less. But you can see they have close to a 3,000 gold lead right now. 4 minutes on the next Drake was just picked up here by Johan. It feels like the game plan well and truly working in order here for Hanwha Esports. I want to remind everyone as well that Johan is undefeated on the here right now. I feel like, you know, he already showed the Olaf very early, and I think, you know, a lot of question marks were raised at this point, but he's just good at playing these champions that just run in, absorb pressure, and be a nuisance. That's exactly what both of these guys do, and this is certainly his playstyle. He does, you know, sometimes, you know, it's a bit of a problem when he's playing Hecarim and he plays the game the same way, but I think this is just him coming into his own, and Johan has looked good, despite the fact that, you know, Olaf is not a pick to get very excited about. No,
but, you know, he was kind of ahead of the curve because he was playing Olaf at the time where we were thinking, okay, well, Olaf is dead, right? And then kind of made a comeback, was Oya should be able to get out of here no problem.
Does have to use his flash, and now Shirley should be taken here by Hanwha Esports. And it just feels like the map is entirely under their control. I feel like these control wards that have been just splayed around the map have been there forever.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
It's not a lot of space that Fredit Brion do have in this game, as Morgan has himself a Nara ultimate.
I mean, at some point, Fredit Brion actually have to start saying, all right, we can team fight now with this composition. I think this is going to be their moment to make that call. It's going to be a tough team fight, but Arbar ready here for Hoya means I think it certainly should take this fight.
Yeah, 5 members of Fredit Brion in the area, though, and Hanwha Esports just back away. They're like, all right, you're going all in, we'll fold.
Yeah, and
we'll see whether we can take down this outer turret, which they do very comfortably.
At least you trade something, right? Which Fredit Brion haven't been able to say about most of these objective fights, unfortunately, but they finally get one. It's the least important one, I think, of the 4 we've had so far before this, but hey, we'll take it. Take any Herald fight you can take. Stolen!
Yep, Yaharong going to be quite frustrating there as Henna just picks that one up. Special delivery.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Well, you know...
That's 2 leashes in a row, actually.
Yeah.
That Hanwha Esports have helped out with.
The wording you were talking about, too, that's really important here for Hanwha Esports is something that I feel like isn't talked about enough for Udyr. It is one of his main strong points, right? Like
he almost is a ward himself.
Yeah, he basically is, and he could just zoom around with a sweeper and reveal so many wards safely, whereas in this matchup, particularly into the Lilia, you're putting yourself at such a high risk if you try to do the same, right? Because if you end up getting stunned by Johan, then Chovy can follow up, Def can blow you up so quickly, but you just cannot be out on the map when you don't have vision, and that's turret going down here.
Yep, nicely done there from Hoya. Made sure that he just had enough caster minions to sort that one out. Def's going to turn back up here in the mid lane. And no, you're exactly right. And I actually think that this goes back to an earlier point that we made about the Leona pick, right? One thing that Leona is very good at is utilizing Aftershock and Eclipse in order to survive when you do have to put yourself in these uncomfortable situations and get these wards out. You can often buy enough time for the rest of your team to rotate. And so it might have been one of the reasons why Delight did go for that one. On top of the fact that, you know, her teamfight presence is very good, plus her win rate has been very, very nice over the last week or so.
Umpty has his stopwatch now, you know, after his Leandries is finished. He needs to be the guy who sets up these team fights, which is so risky. And because you don't have Zhonya's yet, and we're super far away from that if we see it at all on him, he has one really good chance to set up for a big triple sleep. You know, he could just run in, Q, and then set up the sleep and stopwatch. And that's going to be one of the big win conditions for the team fights here at this stage of the game for Fredit Brion. but he only gets one shot at it, so he's being a little bit timid around it. If you end up sleeping just one member, usually the Lantern will be enough to get you out. Yeah, you'll still get slept, but you'll be safe. So you need more than just one target, or else they'll just Lantern out and you've essentially wasted your ultimate, and then you can't set up for the team fight. So a lot of pressure on Umpty right now to set up these upcoming fights. Drake is live now.
Yeah, this is going to be Soul Point for Hanwha Esports. Certainly still good, to be honest. There are a few champions that do utilize it very, very well, as Yaharong takes a little bit of damage there. Void Seeker finds Deft. It looks like Hanwha Esports not too interested in denying this. As you can see, just going to consolidate vision on the top side of the map. It's currently 22 minutes into the game. Baron is alive, and Chovy's just going to trade the Drake for an outer turret top lane. And when you have a comp that does 1-3-1 as effectively as Hanwha Esports does, opening up the map like this becomes even more relevant.
Yeah, and they know they have vision control here too of the Baron. You can see a lot of pings around this at the moment because they're not going to try to start the Baron here because I know Fredit Brion are very nearby. But they can force Fredit Brion to rotate here, which is really frustrating because they just don't have any information, don't have any vision, and because Hanwha Esports is just one step ahead, they get to go home for a reset here.
Yeah.
And Fredit Brion have ended up wasting a little bit of time, like grouped up around Wolves, you know. But you can see that Hanwha Esports Atlas 2 in these last few potential fights, they've just avoided them because they're starting to realize, they're starting to understand they've reached this point where their composition is no longer insanely powerful in skirmishing. And they don't want to take any unnecessary fights. They'd rather just be happy to side lane, as you mentioned, at this stage in time, because I don't want to say the composition has like a sunset. It's not that rough, but you know, you really need to set up the fight on your terms. And if you can't do that, you probably just don't want to take it at the moment for Hanwha Esports. And that's why taking that early Drake lead is so important.
Yeah, and I also think that Hanwha Esports, I mean, their composition isn't awful in a 5v5, especially if Morgan plays it very, very well. However, it is just much better in a 1-3-1. It's much better when you split the map in comparison to Fredit Brion. And why don't they just utilize the fact that Chovy's gone for like the ultra side lane build? Like this is Shieldbow Bloodthirster.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, trade with him. That's going to be really fun. He'll come back with full health in like 2.5 seconds afterwards. Like if you get rid of 90% of that health bar. But you know, it's fun to have a bit of a fight in a side lane. Like it's just. This kind of build sort of tells you that that's the playstyle that Hanwha are going to look for. And I really like it, you know, commit to one style because win conditions, you know, there's quite a few of them for this Hanwha comp.
Yeah, I mean, Delight can't be everywhere. He can't be on top of anyone who's trying to handle this side lane pressure because if he's not there, you know, Morgan can actually 1v1 a lot of people. Chovy can 1v1 anyone in this game.
I'm glad we have player cams, by the way, because Deft is sitting on 308 CS at 24 minutes. As Vista going to have to give...
What did I just say?
He didn't even
about
have
sleep?
to use his cleanse.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he did. He did. He had to use the cleanse, so there we go.
But, I mean, you're just going to be able to Lantern out. If it's a solo sleep, that's not what you want. As Fredit Brion, you've got to get more than that.
Super Mega Death Rocket sails by majestically. Almost hits Yaharong. That was cute, but not going to work out. Yeah, 313 CS at 24 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. He's outdone Chovy, which, you know, we usually don't see. Chovy didn't have the greatest early game.
Yeah, I know. And Chovy's like only 40 CS ahead. That's actually really disappointing.
Yeah, we expect better, Chovy. Well, this is a really fast clear time they have on this Baron.
Yeah,
and they have vision control.
Melted. Vision is available. Good hook is going to land there as Delight might just get locked down very early. Not exactly the priority target, but into the backline goes Morgan. He's looking for more as the Lilia just gets exploded. Def now just able to comfortably front to back. Picked up a couple of kills already as Hoya gets Mega, but it's not going to be enough. No jungler, no support to help start off these fights. And Fredit Brion are going to have to give up the Baron.
I mean, this is the power of Udyr in its own funny way. You have control over the vision so easily and so safely that people who try to challenge you on a Baron like this have to walk blind into a choke point. And you mentioned it, Delight's the most survivable person. He's the one who has to be the one to do this. And it's just a hook so easy. There's a ward over the wall there, and the follow-up damage is real. And once Delight is gone, it's free, this team fight. Morgan comes through, grabs that Gnarled into the wall, and it is just an easy cleanup. They just walk right back to Baron. And these are team fights you could take as Hanwha Esports where it's not really a front to back.
And Def goes back, buys a straight up QSS, has a BF sword as well. Yep. Now he's got Baron. Like, he already had cleanse. Like, they're never going to kill Deft again for the rest of the game. And by again, I mean they haven't killed him once to begin with.
He's 3,500 gold the lead over Henna. And I mean, these are the fights you want to take as Hanwha Esports. You don't have to worry about front to back if you can actually just kill the only tanky member on the side of Fredit Brion, because Delight's the one who has to face check there. You kill him first, and then it's just an easy follow-up from there. And I love that he's also just willing to toss his ultimate out at these intervals.
Jinx is the poke champion. Jinx is the poke champion, by the way. That's how Deft plays it anyways. You can see Hanwha Esports really just wanting to take down this inner turret just to make sure that the map is as wide as possible. Somehow that zap missed. Not sure how that really worked, but Jovi's level 16 by a really large margin. Deft is a higher level than anybody else on the side of Fredit Brion.
And Morgan is just over here on the side. He's got a Baron wave. He has really strong push.
This macro is just beautiful.
It's been
out
great.
of Hanwha Esports. Like, I really love how they recognize their win conditions so effectively in the mid game as well, avoiding 5v5. Even if they were far enough ahead to where they are just going to win anyway, they play to the win conditions that they decided on for their composition. I think that just shows really nice discipline.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up a Drake and a Rift Herald because they were like, well, I'm not going to take that straight up 5v5 fight, especially when Fredit Brion has fast track on the objective. If they have prio, I'm just not going to take that fight.
Yeah.
And then they took the one fight they took with vision control.
Well, there's the solar flare. Phenomenal hook as Yarong has to flash away immediately. Deft, you can see he's got so many bodies in front of him as Chovy comes around with the ultimate, looks to lock down Henna, does so easily as Johan just fighting on the front line, not worried at all. Deft is basically at full health as Chovy's still looking for more, gets the flash out, and I think, Wolf, that this game might just be over.
I think so. I mean, there was your sleep Zonias that I was talking about from Umpty, but unfortunately it's just way too late. The game is over here, Atlas.
Deft is just so massive this game. This is why you don't give him the Jinx. This is why you don't give Chovy the Yone, right?
There's so many things you can't give to this team.
That's the thing that's ridiculous, and I want to talk about this, but we need to talk about it later as Hanwha Esports are looking to lock down the Nexus. They want to grab a few extra kills as Deft might just fall down. No, he doesn't, and even claims the most important 50 gold on the map. Hanwha Esports make life very